Rev up your engines! Today we're going to talk about this 2021 F-150 that the guy bought brand new. And as usual, I'm giving you the truth about these. This isn't a vehicle that Ford gave me to praise it and paid me money to say how great it is. It's an actual guy's vehicle, and I'm going to give you the actual analysis of it and what he's found about it as it stands. No advertising hype, just the real truth about cars. It's what I'm here for. You got to say, it's a beautiful looking truck. It's fully loaded. It's an FX4 off-road, so it's four-wheel drive. He put the nice top on it. It's a 5x4 foot bed. When you have these seats in the back, that of course takes up space. So you can't have as big of a bed with the frames that they design it for. But of course, being an F-150, it's got a real frame. There's where it bolts on. A serious truck with a serious frame. This is not unibody construction. Now, interestingly, this is a hybrid. You can tell that by the orange wires here. And it really makes a difference in this vehicle. Of course, I'm old school. I like the V8s, but of course, you're gonna get worse gas mileage. And with this hybrid system, this has got plenty enough power, but still gets good, real gas mileage. Now, I'm not talking about the fantasy that you see on the sticker that's done on a dyno. Only a small portion of that stuff is actually ever tested. In Michigan, most of it, they just go by the manufacturer's information they give you. But in the real world, driving us down the road, and he's pulling an 8,000-pound trailer, he's getting 21 miles a gallon. And that's something. You gotta understand, when you're pulling stuff, all those figures go out the window. Read the article that was a few months ago about the Canadian guy with a Tesla, and he was pulling just his bass boat. And he went 90 miles, and he couldn't make it back because it had gone through more than 60% of the charge just going 90 miles because he was pulling something. Realize, that's one of the reasons I make these videos. Don't listen to the fantasy advertising crap. Listen to real people who actually own these things and see how they work in the real world when they're pulling stuff, when they're hauling stuff, not some made-up figure. And 21 is pretty good for a gasoline pickup truck, towing that kind of weight. But on his commute, when he's driving on a highway to work, he's gotten as high as 36 miles a gallon. And that's insane on a truck that's as big as this, that's four-wheel drive, that has all this horsepower, because you got the gasoline engine, but you also got the electric traction motor going. Now, if you look closely, you'll notice the floor's a little bit higher. Well, that's because the electric battery pack is under here, and it's liquid cooled. This one here is the cooling for the electric battery. Being liquid cooled, I have yet to see any of these things ever catch on fire in the batteries like a lot of those electric cars do. So basically with this system, you can get the best of both worlds. You're just tootling along on a highway. If you can get 36 miles a gallon on a pickup truck, that's really something. But if you got a tow and he's towing 8,000 pounds, it can do it easily, but it still gets 21 miles a gallon. And for those of you who don't know pickup trucks, try towing 8,000 pounds with any normal pickup truck. They'll start getting into the single digits gas mileage, not 21. Now, technologically speaking, the way that's made possible is with that wild 10-speed automatic transmission that Ford has. Now, granted, the early ones did have problems, and that's the only gripe that he says he's really got with this truck is that it often skips second gear. So he's taking it in under a TSP next week, and they're going to reprogram it so that it won't be skipping the second gear. Now, he will get a little bit lower gas mileage, and I mean, if it was a lot lower, he can always go back and say, put it back that way to get better gas mileage. It's your choice. But he doesn't like the feel of it, so he's going to see what happens with the gas mileage, and I'll tell you after he gets it reprogrammed and drives it a few months. Now, this one has a 7.2 kilowatt inverter on it. And of course, if he wants to use it for construction, hey, no problem. You got a lot of power. You leave that engine running as long as you got gas in the tank, this sucker's going to be able to power a lot of stuff. That's a big deal for a lot of people. That's why I don't comprehend all this crap about pure electric vehicles. For a lot of people, these hybrid ones make a lot more sense because you got the best of both worlds. You can get all the electricity when you need it, but you got a tank of gasoline that you're not going to run out of no matter where you are, and it's not going to leave you stranded when the electricity runs out, as long as you watch your gas gauge. And there's still an awful lot of gas pumps out there compared to the puny amount of electric chargers there are in this country today. Now, since it's four-wheel drive, you're not going to get stuck anywhere. Use of aluminum, there's a lot of aluminum parts. That's how they get better gas mileage. They weigh less than the old trucks did, but they still got a full-size spare. It's a real working truck. It isn't some joke. As you can see with the orange wiring, that's all high voltage. Now, when you combine the V6 with the hybrid system, the problems that the EcoBoost have in the bigger trucks are they're strained too much if it's just the engine. But when you add the hybrid to it, you put so much less strain on acceleration, these engines generally are going to hold up a lot better than the non-hybrid versions do, especially if you're carrying heavy loads or towing heavy loads. In this case, a hybrid actually makes a lot more sense. Sure, it is complex. As they get old, things can go wrong, but the system's been out for quite some time, that it's not some brand new thing. It's been tried out for quite a while, and they haven't had any particular problems. And as I said, the early engines, yeah, the EcoBoost with no hybrid, yeah, the engines were wearing out faster. I predict that these engines are going to last quite a bit longer than the non-hybrid ones because they have less strain, and that's what you want. When you have a vehicle that you're going to be pulling, towing, you want the least strain possible because you're already straining it by all the weight. So you add more horsepower with hybrid, it only makes sense. Once you're going 60, it really doesn't matter. You're just rolling along, but you got to get up there. You got to pull it up there. And the hybrid system actually is a pretty good idea for that. Take it for a spin. Let's start her up. All electric, so you don't hear the motor. Camera's all over, so we're not going to run into the lions at the end of the driveway. You can see. Pretty good. We're not going to hit anything. I still like looking around myself, but it makes it a lot easier. And you can see the contrast is quite well. It really does the job. Completely smooth, and of course it's a regular F-150 pickup truck. You're high up in the air. You get a good view. And with what Ford's done to the suspensions of these things, they do ride quite well. Although I do have to say the Ford Maverick that I tried out the other day, which has independent rear suspension on it, it actually rode a little bit better because it's got independent suspension on the back. It didn't have a solid rear axle. But this is classic, and most guys with an F-150, they expect a solid rear axle for long life and power delivery. Got that start-stop stuff. Well, all doing that today. Once you get rolling, the engine turns itself on. But it is using a lot of electric power. We took off on pure electric power. And I felt it there. I agree with him. I don't like that second gear wobble. He's going to get that reprogrammed. And we'll find out later after he drives it a while and gets it reprogrammed how that worked out. Wait till that guy gets out of the way. Now realize we're starting on electric. So 1, 2, 3, go. It switched pretty fast to the power. Hey, this thing's got some get up and go. There's no arguing that. It'll definitely blow some of this fog away. So you can have power when you need it, and if you're just cruising, you got 36 miles a gallon of this thing just cruising one time, and that's impressive for a full-size pickup truck. It certainly has a lot of modern innovations to it, but it still looks, feels, and pretty much drives like a classic F-150. It's got a V8 engine in it. The modern technology like here, it's showing you that the speed limit's 45, so we'll go a little over. Then you know you're going too fast. Well, I got no problems driving into the fog with this thing. I feel pretty secure. Makes an interesting sound too. And on a smooth road like this, man, you can hear it's pretty quiet. Really smooth. But I have to agree with him on the transmission, because when you take off here, I just felt it. Look, feel that? It's got that little jerky second gear miss there. Let's hope the reprogramming by Ford will fix that, because that is kind of annoying. You spend all this money on a new truck and you get that weird jiggle, shiggle. It just doesn't feel right. Strangely enough, it only does it at low speeds. When you're really floored, it stops doing it. So obviously the software bypasses something when you're really gunning it, because it doesn't do that wiggle between first and second and third gear. It's completely gone when you floor it. It just takes off like a scalded ape. But there's so much technology and computer sensors on this wild 10-speed automatic transmission, it wouldn't surprise me at all that a software correction could make it stop doing that. I gotta say, I was driving like an absolute maniac, and it's still averaging 15.2 over the 5 miles I drove. As comparison, in 2013, I drove a Shelby Cobra GT500 with 667 horsepower, and when I had that, I didn't get 15 miles a gallon. I only got 3. So driving this thing fast, it's kind of impressive. It's like 5 times what I got in that Mustang. So what's my conclusion? Well, if you're not afraid of technology, it's a very interesting truck. We'll find out about that jiggle shift that we saw when he takes it back to get it reprogrammed. I think they probably can fix it, because when I floored it, it went away entirely. So obviously the software can control a lot of stuff. The only thing will be, will that really make his gas mileage go down, or will it not affect it all that much? And I can't see it affecting it all that much, because let's face it, it's first to second to third gear. How long do you drive in those gears? Not that long. What you care about is when you're on the highway. And this thing with that 10-speed, it's got, I believe, 3 overdrive gears in it, which is how it gets such great gas mileage. It's the top end that you care about for gas mileage. You don't spend that much time in first, second, or third gear. So with the power that this has, but enough energy to get decent gas mileage, even pulling heavy loads, you might be thinking about this hybrid version. Especially if you want to use a lot of electrical power and you live where maybe you got a cabin, you want to hook it up for power, or you live in an area where the electric supply is kind of crappy and you want to plug it into your house. Something to think about if you're going to buy a vehicle. If you want to get into electric vehicles, maybe start with a hybrid and see how that works out, rather than go full electric where everything is dependent on electricity. And if it doesn't work out, well, that's the end of that, and that's the end of your money too. Because I can guarantee you, for quite some time, Ford is going to sell a lot more F-150s that are powered by internal combustion engines and maybe with hybrid added on than they're going to be selling the Lightnings that are full electric trucks. I don't think America is ready for full electric pickup truck, for their businesses, for going out in the middle of nowhere and then get stuck without electricity. The conventional one with a little hybrid on it, that's probably the better way to go if you're thinking about transitioning into more electrified vehicles than buying a full electric vehicle. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.